So I've got a little bit of a scenario for you. I've got a little bit of a hypothetical, right? And at this point, I've been lifting. We're coming up on 7.5 years now. By fall time, that'll be my 8-year pump anniversary. I don't remember when my first pump was, but I can definitely go back and find my first documented pump, because I'm sure I took a picture. I don't know when that was, but it would have been a little while ago, right? And I just, I feel pretty smart. I got a basic gist of what I'm doing. I definitely have a good gist in terms of the calorie dieting side of things. But that doesn't mean that I think I've got it all put together, right? Just because I put together, a couple pieces of the puzzle and I'm starting to see what this little area looks like, doesn't mean that I still know the whole picture, right? And whether those few pieces that you have put together are actually close to the whole thing, or if they're kind of even pretty small, it still doesn't change the fact that you need a little motivation to just keep an open mind, and be subject to change. So I think there's a few changes in, let's just say, our gym mentality, right? Take the beginner guy. Go back in time to when you first started working out, 16, 20, that doesn't freaking matter. In the beginning, you've got your excitement is up to here because you basically convince yourself, you know what? I'm doing it. Freaking excited. You get your membership, you know where you're going to go. You basically run through a plan of your workout. There might be a little bit of pressure because you want to come in there and look like you know what you're doing. I remember one time I was on vacation in Florida, and it had to be Florida. I don't know. This is early. This is 16, 17-year-old Sam. Definitely sub 180, probably more like 170 lean-ish. I don't remember, but I go to this YMCA while my family kind of ran off and did whatever they were doing, and I'm like just a little scrapper kid, and I'm doing like 50-pound shoulder dumbbell press or something. I don't know, but I was wearing like a tank, and I felt like the shit. Like just being in there, I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I looked over, I was doing the same weight as somebody else. I'm like, hell yeah. So in the beginning, your excitement is up to here. The novelty factor is up to here because the gym is a new thing. You're like, yeah, this is freaking sweet. Your visualization of what it was going to be like is coming to fruition. Hell freaking yeah. This is a very motivating time period. And then you might get a little bit of an inflated head of, yeah, I really know what I'm doing. I'm a freaking bodybuilding pro. I know how to work out. I know how much volume I need to do. I know how to eat. I know everything. Yip-de-doo. You kind of get this little boxed-in headspace of, dude, I got this shit put together. And then you get to a point where, things might start slowing down plateau-wise, and you should have, and even just that change, going from the I know what I'm doing to maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Not a lot of people go through that. That is a obstacle. So that's, let's just say, phase 1 of plateauedness. Anybody who's still stuck in that beginner headspace of I know what I'm doing, my split is perfect, my protein regimen is the way to do it, I know everything. And I don't think anyone really thinks that like it's clear cut in their head, like I know everything. But people can kind of act on that sort of mentality, right? They're just not going to listen to any kind of tips. Or not direct tips, but just kind of change or evolve over time. So that cuts people down at a point there. And then you get to a phase where you say, okay, maybe I need to work on my training a little bit more, adjust your volume, adjust your maybe your frequency, do a different split, go down a rabbit hole watching YouTube videos about different training protocols and come up with something new. So now you've had one, let's just call it a mental rebirth of your approach to the gym. Now you're like, all right, I thought I knew what I was doing. A little bit of humbleness kicked in, and I said, you know what, actually, I got to work on this a little more. I got to get some more thought put into this, come up with something new. So now you've got a little bit of a newer mentality. Maybe you're intensity is now raised a bar, your frequency and your split is a little more in tune with your weekly schedule, so it's easier to stay consistent in the gym, and you start making a little bit more progress. Ooh, hell yeah, right? And a lot of people might get stuck right there because you had a little bit of a, humbling experience of, I gotta change it up a little. Yeah, nobody likes to say they're wrong. Nobody likes to say, shit, I think I've been doing this wrong for a little while. But if you can, then it makes you more, more open to new ideas, and you can adjust things. But if you get stuck there in that first adjustment phase, well, you're just like that guy who thought that he knew everything in the beginning. Because sure, you did have an adjustment, you changed your split. I mean, shit, I remember changing my volume from 25 sets per workout to even just dropping it to 12 seemed crazy at the time. Because less volume will give me more results. That doesn't make freaking sense. More is more. That was my headspace. That was my version of, I know what I'm doing. You say 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is good. Well, I'll tell you what, 2 grams is even better. Those were my fundamentals back as a beginner. 50 sets a week and 300 grams of protein per day as like a 170 pounder. But I even now I look back and I don't really knock myself for doing that, because I did hit my protein. I don't think you're not going to hurt yourself by eating more than necessary. You might not help. I think 1 gram per pound is the sweet spot even now. So I'm eating less protein now at 240 than I was eating at 170. And yeah, volume-wise, at the time, you couldn't tell me different. 25 sets per week, or 25 sets per workout, 50 per week. Dude, that just means I'm doing more work than you. That was my logic. The idea of trying to increase my intensity and decrease the volume, I hadn't been exposed to it yet, and it just didn't occur to me yet. It just didn't make sense. If I knew about Mike Mentzer as a beginner, I must have been a freaking Mike Mentzer hater. This guy's only doing 2 sets. Well, guess what? I'm doing 50 for an arm day. That was my freaking thing. Is this guy gonna hit me? Nah. It's a big semi-left turn. But I got over that, opened myself up to some new volume ideas, adjusted my training, made more progress, started eating a little bit less protein, a little bit more carbs, things along those lines. And then, hell yeah, my training is moving forward. But what I'm really trying to, say with this whole analogy is don't lose that. Don't lose that ability to reflect and think. Try to highlight some maybe shortcomings or just gaps in your training, your dieting, your sleep, your overall just schedule. Because if you can keep an eye out for those, as much as I'm excited for a crazy arm day right now, I want to put a similar amount of effort into thinking, okay, what do I want to adjust during this weight gaining phase? Because I've got however many months I'm going to be eating above maintenance. I'm trying to leverage growth. What can I do differently to increase my progress, right? To make more gains. So far, I've changed my back training up a little bit. And, well, I guess that's the only kind of big thing currently, but I'm definitely thinking about what else I can sort of change. So even now, I'm looking at myself like, what am I missing? What's the gap in my armor that I need to fill in, just to kind of improve its overall efficiency or effectiveness, rather, So I can probably think of a glaring one for most of you guys, and guess what? That's going to be cardio. But that's basic, that's a basic one. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows they should do cardio. It's not a knowledge problem. That's more so just a execution problem. But yeah, just take a look at it, right? And maybe ask a third party. Maybe ask a trusted third party to give you some tips, because as much as social media comment sections are cool for some, proper discourse, how do you know the guy who's telling you about his favorite tricep training has never even worked out before? You can't always freaking trust it. So if you've got a gym that has a big ass dude in it, maybe ask his take, and I think that's really valuable info. Not exactly like full-on training splits or full-on like different training styles, or like, oh, do you do Hani Rambod's FST7? Are you doing starting strength? Are you doing some other bodybuilding program? Like, obviously that's cool. The more kind of diversified your knowledge base is, the better. But what I really like hearing is just how other guys visualize a workout. Like, what do they think? What are their phases? What's their basic skeleton of a chest day? For a while, in my head, very clear cut, I never want to start a chest day with flies. I want to start a chest day with a really heavy movement because I'm strong. That was my logic with almost every body part. I want to start with a really heavy set in the beginning and then get lighter as I get weaker throughout the workout, which I think is sound logic. I think and I still do that sometimes, but I think my main issue was thinking that was the only way to do it, which totally isn't the freaking case. I'm still going to do workouts that start really heavy, but now I'll also do especially triceps. I'll start triceps off light squeezing and then move on to heavier work. For one, just because with triceps, sometimes it takes a little while to warm up your elbows before you can really put pressure through them. But then it kind of feels different doing incline Smith press after I've already got a bit of a chest pump from doing like some cable flies. My strength isn't totally sapped. I can still move a lot of weight and have a lot of tension in my chest. But the fact that it's already been activated and it's already a little bit more swollen, that heavy press suddenly feels a little bit different than if I do it first. So just little things like that. But today's arm day, as much as I'm talking about all this, changing everything up, today's arm day is going to be pretty consistent with what I've been doing. I want some overhead tricep work to really get a solid stretch on my long head of my tricep. And I think overhead is definitely something you should have in your tricep routine, as long as it doesn't hurt your elbows or your shoulders or anything. But other than that, a variety of curls, dumbbell, preacher, cable, bicep bias pull downs, and then we will just see how pumped we end up being. A little bit heavier this morning. I had a little bit extra food. I had not exactly some sweets. Would you call 2 Uncrustables a sweet? I probably would. I'm not looking at... I wouldn't call an Uncrustable a meal. So an Uncrustable is definitely a treat. But yeah, so that's what. 3 of those before bed was 27 grams of fats, 78 grams of carbs. And with the protein from the peanut butter in tandem with the bread, I actually do count some of that protein because the two are complementary, I'm pretty sure. Just look it up, peanut butter sandwich protein something or other. But either way, an extra 70 grams of carbs and 30 grams of fats before bed. I slept like a freaking baby. So 241 wake up weight. So I'm kind of bouncing right around that 240 this week. And hopefully after this workout, when I go home and eat my food and get a good night's rest, I'll wake up tomorrow at around 241.15, right? Maybe I gained 0.15 pounds of muscle, which on average would actually be the rate, because I'm gaining about a pound a week-ish, or that's what I'm aiming for. But it's never that linear. Your weight on your scale day by day is always going to be like this. But when you watch the trend and you kind of average it out, that's when you'll start to see the pattern. But I think nothing else to say. Let's just get this arm day started. Today is going to be alternating. So not supersetted, because I'm going to take a second to catch my breath in between each one. But I'm going to do a set of triceps, then a set of biceps. So if your gym's a little busier, this would be kind of tricky because you kind of have to hog a little bit of equipment. Or not hog it, but, you know, have it be open for you. Like if I, I mean, nobody really does it, but if you've ever seen the guy camp out and he's just got fucking like 3 stacks of dumbbells, he's got his water bottle by a cable, terrible. But I'm gonna start with underhand long D handle extensions. So the movement path of this is not just like here. I'm kind of going like totally underhanded stretch at the top and then kind of twisting this way. So it's a really sort of twisting action, and it really fries my long head, which is like, you know, pretty much the meat of your tricep. So if you've never done these, I'd recommend them, but start lighter so you can sort of really feel it. There we go. All right, let's do a cable curl next. This will be a little nastier. So those were pretty controlled, but especially since this is kind of more hammer curlish and I've got a little extra forearm strength at play, this is 1 notch heavier than the push downs, and these reps will be a little quicker. So I'm going to save a squeezing set for biceps later, and then a heavy nasty set of triceps later. So kind of a little bit of a dichotomy. One more of each. A little heavier for this next one. Come on. There we go. All right, come on. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So I'm not gonna put an extra plate on the stack yet, but I think going forward, I might have to, because the 250 available to me, an extra plate wouldn't really hurt, I don't think. But we'll just hit the stack for a straight set to failure. Easy bar push down. I've seen guys, you know, bust out the straight bar or the V bar where it's like a really tight angle, and instead of here, they're like this. Don't really care for that one. This is nice. Just a little bit of a camber where it kind of matches my natural like wrist position, but I can still like kind of, and obviously I can't do it, but at the bottom of these reps, I want to feel like I can pull the bar apart a little bit. that sort of mental visualization helps me really squeeze at the bottom. So I think nothing else to say but get freaking crazy here. Okay. Oh, one more of those. Let's do a dumbbell curl as the alternated movement. Here's the plan. I'm gonna grab the 40s and I'm gonna do sort of 1-2 reps. Halfway up, pause, finish the rep. So I can't ride the momentum of the weight. I've got to actually really send some freaking signals, squeeze into my biceps to get the movement moving. These are good on leg extensions too. Okay. All right. Back to the push down. Okay. One more of those curls, and then I'll pick a new pair of movements. Same thing, but with the 50s instead. All right. Okay. Give me 100 reps here. Yeah. Two. just sitting in that stretch position, that's fucking sweet. Let's do a preacher. The 35 is just about freaking right. So I'm gonna do the right side first and match failure with the left. Wait a second. One eensy beensy second. There we go. Okay. The 35 is about right. And my right bicep is lagging behind the left a little bit. So I'm gonna take the right one to failure, be that 10 reps, maybe like 2 partials or 2 assisted reps, and I'll just match that number on the left side. So the right one will get just a teeny bit more stimulation with the hopes that it will grow a little more and catch up and balance out. But I would never recommend just doing an extra set or more reps on one side than the other, because then you might catch yourself overdeveloping that side, right? So that's kind of my method, matching reps on the strong side to the weak side and not the other way around. But either way, a solid squeezing set of dumbbell preachers. Okay. Let's get the sleeve out for this one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Whew. Yeah. One more of each of these. This feels really good. I haven't done dumbbell preachers in forever. Yeah. Two. 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 Poof. Two. 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 Okay. Ooh, okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Oh, goodness. Yeah. 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 Okay. Oh, okay. Whew. All right. I think one more push down and curl combo, and we'll be fully pumped. I mean, shit, I'm already getting a glimpse of it now. rope pushdowns to pre-exhaust, and then jump onto some overhead. Same weight as before, but if I do 10 squeezing reps of the rope first, I might do 5 reps over there. And they'll be good reps, but I won't be able to do a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Whew. All right, let's finish with one set of easy bar cable curls. Well, let's let the pump speak for itself. This isn't even that heavy, but after doing all those other sets before, even doing a feeler rep freaking burns. There. Okay. Okay. All right, that's all. Let's freaking see what we're looking like fully pumped. And I didn't bring the measuring tape, but I do have a measuring method. I'll show you in a second. All right, it's freaking been a while since we've seen the outside world. It's been so freaking cold. Open garage lifts have really been off the table. But before the pose down, let's see a little bit of an arm measurement. So I got this string, and then I have an actual classic like winder tape measure. So it will freaking work. Let's just make sure I measured at the thick part. Okay, 1 second. You don't want to cheat with this measurement, but you don't want to cheat yourself either. So I'm aiming for the thickest part around, but not crooked. There we go. All right. Okay. Looks like right here. I'm not going to bother with the other one just because that was tricky enough. Whoa. Jesus. I was about to slice my finger off with this thing. Come on. No, it's only... Come on. There we go. All right, line this up here. Yippee. Holy shit. Okay, wait a second. Let me remeasure just to make sure I'm not trolling myself. And the reason why I was just a little bit shocked, measuring tape read 20 inches and a little bit of change. Okay, let's make sure this is all fair and proper. There we go. All right, right here for sure. Now let's line this up here. Do-do-do. Woohoo! Yeah, 20 inches on the freaking dot. I am cool with that. But now that I already spent so much time doing that one, now I have to do the other one. So left arm, 20 inches pumped, which, I mean, holy shit. This is only like the first bit of this off season too. I'm not even in full swing of things. I think 21 inches pumped is gonna happen this year. Let me get back to the thin part a little bit. And 20, oh my gosh. If you've been a long time viewer, you know, even hitting 20 has been like a long-term goal But now, freaking, the bulk hasn't even actually started yet. Right here. 20 inches on both sides. Holy smokes. Well, I would say that there is only more to freaking come. So now I know the title of this arm day. It's fucking 21 inches pumped. Or 20 inches pumped. But let's see how we're looking. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah, 20 inches pumped. I feel like a freaking behemoth. And that's 20 inches pumped at 240. This isn't even like 20 inches at like 260. That is foreboding good, let's just say goodwill going forward in this off season. Just starting there, I mean, that is like a fucking insane starting point. And even just sitting doing like a little bit of a kind of flexing most muscular is freaking nuts as well. Now I got to hit a few more. What does a side tricep look like with 20 inches pumped? Oh, I can hardly stretch my arm around myself to even freaking flex it. Well, needless to say, I am very happy with that. So shit, what do you think? I mean, I've got as many months of weight gaining as I really want, or at least as I can actually feasibly accomplish. And to already be there, or I guess here, now, it's just fucking crazy. But either way, insane lift. Let's discuss more in the car. All right, microphone on, arms still pumped. Can't even touch my shoulder, and it's been like 20 minutes. That's a good feeling. You know, there's two styles of pumps. There's a fed, bulked up, carbed pump, and there's a flat, depleted pump. This one, not so fun. The flat, depleted pump is just a necessary evil when you're dieting down, because you're still training, not only for the muscular maintenance effects of your training, it also burns some energy, as just as activity. You should be doing cardio as well. But dieting down, you're really dieting for real. You track everything. You're going to be flat. All of your, basically, you can imagine every one of your muscle cells, and really all your cells all over the place, right? Every little bitty from your liver to your, your organs, everything. They all have little storage containers, or at least this is how I imagine it. Whether or not it's just like evenly dispersed throughout everything. I'm not a biochem or a bio student, but every one of your muscle cells has a container of fuel. Right? Now your cells aren't going to store fats. That's why you have fat cells for. Those will actually kind of store them. Which I don't know the exact logic of that. Like, did the individual fat cells grow, or are they like little fat deposits? Any med students can potentially enlighten me. I don't really need to think of the specifics. What I'm more concerned with is how much glycogen, essentially just sugar water, is in those little storage cells of all my muscle. Right? Because that's your energy source number one. That's your first line of defense against, or not line of defense, that's not the right way to say it, but that's your first source that your body's going to say, dude, burn this shit off. The act of, I definitely know this, the act of burning body fat for energy is not as efficient as taking glycogen, sugar water, and then converting that into ATP production, however that all works. Sugar's quick. Sugar is a quick energy source. So when you're dieting, the way that I like to imagine it is if I'm in a good dieting state, then I'm just kind of, on average, throughout the entire day, flat. All of my, sugar water containers are basically close to empty. They're never empty because you need them. Your body will actually produce sugar from, but glucose from fats. It's called gluconeogenesis if your carb intake becomes too scarce for too long, right? You always have some blood sugar, to put it simply. But if I'm flat, then I can't really rely on a ton of those internal carbs for energy, so my body's going to look elsewhere. It's going to burn body fat. I forget if the term is, I think the term's oxidize or let's not get too specific. I'm going to burn body fat for energy. Now in a bulk, I want to be as carbed up as I can because I want my muscles, I want my biceps and my triceps and everything else to have access to its most immediate and effective energy source possible, so that when I hit a crazy lift, they're supercharged. They're literally just stronger. If you had me come in and do a variety of muscular endurance tests, and in one state is me right now, full carbed up 240, and then let's say you gave me, let's say I did a 3-day fast, or let's say 3 days of protein only, but no carbs, no fats, I would become depleted. I wouldn't have so much sugar water in all my muscles, and they wouldn't be able to run off of that fuel so well. So all of my strength metrics would decrease. And in the dieting phase, that's kind of just the deal. You want to run off of your body fat, not internal sugar. So now that I'm full of carbs and I'm strong, or getting stronger rather, and just well fed, well, not only does that make my workouts more intense because I physically have more energy to really go nuts, but it also means that my muscles are just on a cell by cell basis larger because they've got more everything, more internal fluids. Like when we were talking about creatine, that's intramuscular fluids, sarcoplasm, glycogen, all sorts of fancy pants buzzwords. The basic gist is they're all larger because they're full of fuel. So when I come in to workout, or I come in to do a workout, I mean, shit, I'm just at full power. It's like I may as well have loaded up my, what's his name? I'm like Little Mac, and he's got that, kind of like punching bar all the way up at the max of his side B, if you know what I'm saying. A little bit of a niche reference, and I'm kind of talking in a roundabout sort of way, but carbed up, your pump will benefit. Let's boil those last 5 minutes down into just that. If you've got a good amount of carbs in your system, you're gonna feel it in a good way. So if you're getting ready for a summertime gaining phase, a summertime bulk like myself, then you got to start eating, man. You got to start eating a little bit more food. Now, for the most part, I think, I should make an Instagram poll about how many people try to actually really track their calories and everything. And that's I think that's probably a decent approximation as a sample size for that sort of question. But I think a lot of guys, probably the majority of people in the gym, just kind of eat. Not to say that's a bad thing. Some guys, their logic will be, well, I work out really hard on a consistent basis, so I don't have to worry about my diet. The two kind of counter each other. You can kind of just eat whatever, and if you work out 6 days a week really hard, let's say you add cardio on top of the mix, you can eat a diet which would make someone else gain a ton of body fat, but for you could kind of burn off a little bit. So that's solid. Some people like that mentality, and I'm not going to argue against it if that's really what they like. So it's not like they're wrong and people who track their calories are right. That's not how I'm trying to describe it. But I think a lot of people are like that. And to go from more of a free-form style of eating where you just kind of grub versus a little more of an intense or an intent style of eating where you're really watching the scale and trying to see week by week changes, you need to make a little bit of an effort to push the envelope. So I don't mean you have to eat 6,000 calories a day, But even just adding 100 grams of carbs to, just sometime throughout the day is going to help. 100 extra grams of carbs for some is enough to push them from maintenance to a steady gain of size. Now, not crazy quick or anything, as quick as normal, but yeah, 400 extra calories in the day consistently, that's a big difference. So where are you going to get those 400 calories? I don't think you need to increase your protein immediately. That your protein intake is just directly related to your body weight. So 150-pound dude, I'd say 150 grams. 200-pound dude, 200 grams. That's a good rule of thumb. So really, I'd say carbs, man. We're getting back to what I was talking about, just about being more pumped. So where can you get these carbs? Where can you get these carbs from? You could certainly grab a bag of Skittles, 50 grams of carbs, usually 52 in a regular size pack. I think you know why I know that. But, it's not going to hurt you, I don't think. But if you want to be a little more just real about it, kind of more just like legit, maybe you want to feel better because you ate 100 grams of oatmeal instead of 100 grams of sweets. They'll both have a strong impact in that energy expenditure balance, but don't eat, all junk all the time. So right now, my pre-workout is a pretty good example of what I would call a solid carb-based meal. I'm not slamming a bunch of protein before this lift, so I kind of want to just prioritize my carb digestion. So what I'm doing is 3 packs of instant cream of wheat or cream of rice. I've kind of been dabbling between the two, but I've been on a cream of wheat kick. It's very nostalgic. I had that a lot for breakfast when I was a kid. So 3 little packs. I should just get a big box, but I just happened to get a pack last time. So 60 grams of carbs worth of cream of wheat. You add, I've been doing 300 grams of water for that ratio. Putting it in the microwave, minute, stir it, minute, stir it, minute, stir it, until it's pretty much steaming hot and ready to go. Then add 15 grams of carbs worth of frozen berries, which is actually a lot. It's about 170 grams of frozen like raspberries and blueberries. Really not a ton of carbs. So now that's putting me around 75 grams of carbs, and then I'll scoop out 25 grams of brown sugar onto the top, partially because I like it, but also some more simple carbs in the mix. I think the main reason is just because I like it. I guess I could do one more pack of the cream of wheat, but the brown sugar makes it taste pretty good. And so that puts me at about 90, actually no, that's 100 grams of carbs right there. Exactly what I was saying. And it goes down pretty freaking quick. It's not that hard. I think the main issue when it comes to guys who say, oh shit, man, I just can't freaking eat. My issue is I just can't get the food down. Well, I've got a few questions for you. If that's you, legit, I have a few questions. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to hear the answer, but you can answer it for yourself, and it should maybe clear up the situation. Do you track any of your calories? Are you actually being very, I don't want to say anal about it, but are you being consistent about making sure you know how many grams of protein and carbs and fats are going into your body every day? That's a big one. And second question, what's your rate of consumption? How quickly are you eating this food? Because if you don't eat early in the day, it can set you up for failure going forward. Let's say I'm deep into this bulking phase and I am gonna start putting down, let's just say 4,500 calories. I'll work my way up to there every day. If it's 1 o'clock, let's say I've been up since 7 or something. If it's 1, so now what is that, 6 hours? So yeah, 6 hours have passed throughout the day and I've only eaten 1,000 calories. Well, I'm only going to be awake probably another 11 hours if I go to bed at midnight. So at that rate, I'm only going to be able to eat 3,000 calories, And if I want to hit that actual goal of 4,500, if I have to play catch up, if it's 6 o'clock at night and I've only eaten 2,000, well, shit. Now I've got to eat 2,500 calories in, pretty much 4 hours. Whereas if I had eaten a really big breakfast and then maybe an early lunch and then, Maybe I got 2 of the raw protein bars sitting in my bag as I'm going to the gym. Have those immediately afterward. That's going to add up to another 420 calories right there. 18 grams of fats, 42 or 44 grams of carbs, 40 grams of protein. I mean, that's a meal, and it goes down like freaking nothing. So the earlier you can start eating and the more consistently you can eat, the easier it's going to be to eat a lot. So if I wake up, I mean, shit, I've done this before. I haven't done it yet. Really, I only did this when I was dieting because I would freaking wake up hungry. But I'd wake up freaking starving. It's like 3 o'clock. Not every night, but every so often I would just wake up. And it's like by that late into the night, now that I'm awake, I'm like basically just feeling how hungry I am. So I'd go down, eat something, and then just go back to bed. I'd still count the calories, of course. Those would count for the next day. But it's like, dude, I can't wait till later. I got to eat something. So, especially on the weekend, maybe wake up a little extra early, have a big-ass meal, and then go back to sleep. I've hit a few of those before. It's it's just about having a good rate of consumption, I feel. So how many pounds do you weigh? You gotta look up a maintenance calorie calculator online. Plug in your height, your weight, how often you work out. I'm sure there's somewhere you could plug in a lot more information and it would give you a more accurate reading. But that's a really good place to start. That's where I started. I remember the first time I looked it up and I plugged in it was like, all right, 2,800 calories for maintenance, 3,100 for a mild bulk, 3,500 for a heavy bulk. That's what it would say. It would say like maintenance, moderate increase, high increase, something like that. Not 100% accurate, but it'll give you the gist. So look at that, get your baseline of whatever, macro count it's aiming for, and then think about how often you can eat. I think a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I don't think anybody's only eating a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I think there's a lot of snacking in between. So the idea of 3 square meals, I feel like it just doesn't really happen that much. Everybody's going to be randomly snacking on everything. I'd say 5 meals per day is a more accurate description. A breakfast, let's talk about somebody who's going to have like a 7 to 12, 7 to 10, I don't know. Breakfast, early lunch, early dinner, breakfast, early lunch, early dinner, late dinner. Yeah, something like that. Well, look up your maintenance calorie calculator and then divide each of those macros by 5. So that should be what you're aiming for per meal. Right now I'm aiming for around 3,400-ish, 3,300, kind of bouncing around right in there. So that divided by 5, if I'm going to eat 5 square meals, I might have some snacks in between if some of the meals are smaller, but on average, eating around probably 5 times a day, well, that's going to put me at 50 grams of protein per meal. Easy rule of thumb to follow. Around 18, 17-ish grams of fats. Pretty easy as well. And then a little less than 100 grams per carbs. Something along those lines. I've got the macro specific, but I forget the exact numbers that add up to that 3,400. But I think it's around 80 grams of carbs-ish. So every time I eat, I'm trying to make sure that whatever carb that I'm eating, 80 grams of carbs or so, protein, 50 grams of protein, fats, less than 18 grams of fats. I don't